There was lipstick on the rim of her third glass, and she hadn't looked at me once since we got there. Not even a glance. Not even when I spilled water on my jeans trying to open the stupid soda bottle I brought, because I didn't feel like drinking tonight. Blake, yeah, that Blake, was already shirtless. The music was loud, but not loud enough to drown out Avery's laughter every time he whispered in her ear. Her laughter used to be reserved for those rare nights we stayed up watching terrible B-movies and eating microwave pizza on the couch. But apparently, all it took was a few shots and a nostalgia playlist to erase 6 years of marriage. And when the lights dimmed and someone yelled, "Turn it up," she didn't hesitate. She slid right into Blake's space like she belonged there. Her hands on his shoulders, his on her hips, moving like no one else existed. I stood maybe 8 feet away. 8 feet between us, and it felt like an ocean. I could hear my heart thudding in my ears. Or maybe it was just the bass. Or maybe it was that specific type of humiliation that only shows up when your wife starts dancing like a teenager in heat with a man who used to leave bite marks on her neck. And then she looked over at me. Only then, mid-grind, like I was the one interrupting her night. Like I was the awkward cousin at someone else's wedding. She smiled, tilted her head, and mouthed it. Relax. Just that. One word. Like she was telling me to calm down over a parking ticket. Like I was overreacting to the fact that the woman I married was currently reenacting her college spring break on someone else's lap. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I didn't storm out. My feet were nailed to the floor with betrayal. But someone else reacted for me. The music stopped. Like, full stop. Someone even dropped a glass. And then came the shouting. From the front door. And suddenly, every head turned as her dad, in full work uniform, face flushed and fists clenched, stepped into the living room like a one-man SWAT team. He wasn't looking at Blake. He wasn't even looking at her. He was looking straight at me. And what he said next didn't make any sense. Not at first. But when it clicked, it broke something I didn't even know could break. When her dad barged in, I expected yelling. I expected him to drag Blake across the floor by the collar, maybe even knock over a few solo cups in the process. But instead, he walked past his daughter like she was invisible. He didn't even blink at Blake. His eyes locked on me, and for a second, I genuinely thought I was about to get punched. I opened my mouth to say something, maybe stammer out a confused "Hi, Mr. Bartlett," like a kid caught sneaking out. But he beat me to it. He pointed at me, actually pointed, and said, "You knew. You knew and you said nothing?" My stomach dropped. I blinked like an idiot. Knew what? He stepped closer. "Don't play dumb. You think this little stunt tonight is the worst of it? Camden, you should have said something the moment you found out." I wasn't breathing. I forgot how. Around us, the party fell into an awkward, twitching silence. Some drunk guy in a snapback mumbled, "Yo, is this dude her dad?" But everyone else just watched in frozen confusion. Avery finally turned around. Her face went pale like she just saw a ghost. She wasn't drunk anymore. Not even close. And then she said it. Something I'll never forget. "Dad, why are you here already? I told you it was next week." Next week. Next freaking week. My brain scrambled to put the pieces together. Her dad wasn't storming in because of what she did on the dance floor. He wasn't there because she was grinding on Blake. He was there because of something else. Something I apparently should have known about. And Avery looked panicked. That's when I noticed her phone wasn't in her hand anymore. Her purse was zipped shut. No texts. No backup plan. She looked cornered, like a raccoon caught in a flashlight beam. I realized then, I wasn't the only one she'd lied to. "Dad," she said, suddenly trying to sound calm. "It's fine. I was going to tell him. I was. Just not tonight." "Tell me what?" She was walking toward him now, slowly, carefully. The way people walk when trying to stop a fight before it starts. He looked like he was about to explode. "You think you get to plan this behind our backs?" he barked. "You think your mom wouldn't want to be there? You think he doesn't deserve the truth?" "What truth?" I finally croaked out. My voice cracked like I was 15 again. Everyone turned toward me. Even Blake, who had been standing there smirking like some kind of sleazy statue, finally shifted. Avery didn't answer. Not with words. She just stood there. And then she sighed. That tired, bored sigh she used to give me when I forgot to take out the trash. And she said, "Camden, I'm pregnant." Silence. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. I waited for the punchline. Waited for her to add, "And it's yours." But she didn't. She just stood there like that was all I needed to know. Then her dad added the part that sent me fully over the edge. And it's not yours, is it? Avery's mouth didn't move. She didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. That's when my knees gave out. Right there in the middle of that packed living room. People gasped. Someone whispered, "Damn," like they were watching an episode of some reality show. But I wasn't just a viewer. I was the fool. The clown. The disposable husband whose wife had already started building a new life and hadn't even told her own parents until it was too late to hide it. And worst of all, she told me to relax. I sat on the floor of Blake's living room, knees burning against the carpet, and still, Avery didn't reach for me. No hand on my shoulder. No, "Are you okay?" She just looked annoyed, like I was inconveniencing her mid-party meltdown. I couldn't even speak. I looked up at her, searching for something in her face. Remorse, guilt, even fear. But there was nothing. Just that glassy indifference I hadn't seen since the last time I accidentally deleted one of her Instagram drafts. Everyone was staring at us. Or at me, more like. And I finally realized something that hit harder than the pregnancy announcement. They knew. At least some of them did. There were two girls in the corner whispering with their hands over their mouths. A guy near the fireplace actually smirked at me. Like this had been building for a while, and I was the only one who missed every single clue. "Get up," her dad muttered under his breath. "This ain't the place." But I couldn't. I didn't want to. Getting up meant I'd have to react. I'd have to speak. I'd have to accept what just happened. That she was pregnant. That it wasn't mine. That she told her dad before she told me. That I was the last to know, even though I was the only one who thought I was in a real marriage. And then Blake. God, Blake. He finally spoke. "Cam, man, I didn't know she hadn't told you yet." I looked at him. He was biting his lip like he was trying to sound sympathetic, but the guy was glowing. You could practically see the smugness leaking out of his pores. "Don't say my name," I managed to choke out. "Don't pretend like you care." Avery crossed her arms. "Camden, stop. You're being dramatic." Dramatic. That's what she called it. I felt something inside me finally crack. Not break, crack. Like a deep fault line underneath everything I thought was real. I stood. Somehow I stood. My knees were weak, my chest was pounding, but I forced my legs to move. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't even know if I was going to scream, cry, or just pass out. But then her dad, bless the man, stepped between us and turned to his daughter. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he said, low and sharp. "You don't just forget to tell your husband you're pregnant with another man's kid. You don't throw it out in the middle of a party like you're announcing a playlist." Avery rolled her eyes. "Dad, it's not 1950. He can handle it." "Apparently not," Blake muttered, loud enough to make sure I heard. And just like that, I snapped. I grabbed the glass of soda I'd left on the table and threw it against the wall. It shattered with a crack that silenced the entire room. Even the music cut out, or maybe someone finally had the decency to kill the speakers. Everyone stared. I stared too. At her. And for the first time that night, she looked a little scared. I didn't hit anyone. I didn't scream in her face. I didn't even insult her. I just said one thing. "I gave you everything, and you gave me back this." And then I turned around and walked out the front door. No jacket, no car keys, just pain in my chest and broken glass in my memory. But the night wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because the next person I saw outside was her mother. And what she told me changed everything. It was cold. The kind of cold that makes your skin feel thin. I didn't even notice I'd slammed the door behind me. My hands were still shaking, and I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I needed air. Something real. Something that didn't smell like cheap beer and betrayal. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, heart pounding, and there she was. Susan, Avery's mother, sitting in her car across the street, headlights off, engine idling. I stopped. We locked eyes through the window. She didn't wave. She didn't get out. Just slowly lowered the driver's side window and said, "Get in, Camden." It didn't feel like a suggestion. I didn't want to. My pride was already splattered across 100 pairs of party shoes, and the last thing I needed was a lecture from the woman who raised her. But something in her voice, it wasn't anger. It wasn't judgment. It was pity. And pity is a scary thing when it's coming from the mother of the woman who just detonated your whole life. I opened the door and got in. The warmth hit me like a wall. So did the silence. She reached into the cup holder and handed me a bottle of water without saying a word. I took it with numb fingers. I'm sorry, she said finally. Not loud, not dramatic, just plain, real, like she meant it. Did you know? I asked. Susan took a breath, long and slow. I knew she was hiding something. I didn't know it was this. I nodded, staring straight ahead, afraid to blink too hard in case tears showed up. I didn't even get a warning. Not one. I warned her, she said. I told her not to go through with it. But she's like her father, stubborn when she's wrong. I laughed. A bitter, empty laugh. Her father actually defended me in there. He likes you, Susan said. We both do. We always knew you were too good for her, but we figured she'd grow into you. That line hit me sideways. Too good for her. I used to think I was lucky she even looked my way, I said quietly. Turns out, I was just a placeholder. Susan put the car in park and turned to face me fully. You were more than that. And you still are. But now you need to start acting like it. What do you mean? She hesitated, like she was weighing something in her head. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded envelope. Handwritten. My name on the front. She's been keeping secrets, Camden. More than just Blake. More than just the pregnancy. I stared at the envelope like it might explode. She rented an apartment, Susan said. Not for her. For him. She's been paying for it in cash. I found the receipts in her closet last week while helping her pack for that conference in Denver. Which she never went to, by the way. What? She stayed at that apartment. For 5 days. While you thought she was at a marketing seminar. I felt the pressure in my chest spike again. I couldn't breathe. She said she was working late. I muttered. She came back with fake notes. A whole fake schedule. She even had someone pretend to call you, Susan said. A co-worker. Everything blurred for a moment. I felt sick all over again, but this time it wasn't my stomach. It was my soul. And that's not even the worst part, Susan said, her voice dropping. I turned to her slowly. She told Blake you were sterile. I blinked. What? That's what she told him. That you couldn't have children. That's how she convinced him the pregnancy was some kind of miracle. I sat there in stunned silence. I saw the messages, she added. She said things like, Camden can't know. He's too fragile. She made you sound like a broken doll she kept on a shelf. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Something inside me had gone completely hollow. Then Susan leaned closer. Her eyes were sharp now. Angry. She humiliated you tonight. But she doesn't know what you're going to do next. And trust me, that's your advantage. My voice cracked. I don't want revenge. Susan nodded. Good. Then call it justice. I didn't speak the whole drive home. Susan didn't push me. She just drove with both hands on the wheel like she was carrying something fragile in the passenger seat. I stared out the window, watching streetlights smear across the glass like ghost trails. I didn't even know where Avery was. Still at Blake's party? Crying? Laughing? I didn't care. That part of me, the part that would have begged her to explain, begged her to come clean, was finally gone. When I walked into our apartment, everything looked normal. Her shoes by the door, her throw blanket on the couch, the half-finished puzzle we were supposed to work on together, still laid out on the table. It was like betrayal had slipped on my life like a costume and worn it perfectly until now. I sat down, opened the envelope Susan gave me, and started reading. It wasn't just receipts. There were photos, notes, a copy of a lease, and at the bottom, a folded sticky note with a password. Avery's laptop password. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. That word, fragile, echoed in my head like poison. She told him I was fragile. The man who picked her up from her lowest points. The man who paid her tuition when her parents couldn't. The man who stood by her through 2 layoffs and her finding herself phase. I opened the laptop, typed the password. It logged in. The truth wasn't buried. It was right there in the open. Screenshots, chat logs, calendar reminders labeled B&W date night. Blake and who? One message hit me like a truck. Avery. Camden thinks I'm at therapy LOL. I told him I needed more sessions to work through trust issues, faced with tears of joy. Trust issues. I had trusted her so hard I couldn't breathe. I'd blamed myself. And she was mocking it. But that night, something shifted in me. Not rage. Not even heartbreak. Something quieter. Colder. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and said aloud to the empty room. Okay. Not a shout. Not a scream. Just okay. If she wanted fragile, I'd show her what calm looked like. The next morning, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel like smashing her stupid ceramic mug that said wife, boss, queen. Instead, I made eggs. Quietly. Toast. Coffee, like it was any other Sunday morning. I folded the blanket on the couch. I watered the dying plant she kept forgetting about. I left her laptop open on the kitchen table, still on the message thread with Blake, still showing the laughing emojis at my expense. Let her see it. I wanted her to walk in and feel it immediately, that cold shift in the air, that silence that wasn't passive anymore, but planned. Then I packed a bag. Not to run. No, I wasn't running. I just didn't want to breathe the same air as her when she came home. I didn't want her to twist this into another argument she thought she could win with a few tears and a fake apology. I texted Susan, told her I needed a day. She replied in under 10 seconds. Come over. I'll be out. Keys under the third pot. I left Avery's keys on the table next to her favorite perfume. I didn't leave a note. I wanted the silence to speak for me. But before I walked out the door, I took something she'd never notice at first. A flash drive, one she used to back up her work files. Except now, it contained copies of everything from that laptop. Every message, every receipt, every lie. Not for revenge. Not yet. But for proof. Because I knew the gaslighting would come. She'd twist it. She'd say I misunderstood. That it was emotional cheating at most. That I was being insecure again. That Blake was a mistake and meant nothing. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to prepare. The world didn't need to hear her side. Not this time. They just needed to see it. And when she finally came home later that night, calling my name like nothing had happened, she found an empty apartment, an open laptop, and her whole future blinking back at her from the screen. She called me 17 times in 2 hours. I didn't pick up, but Susan did, and she recorded it. Every last word. By Monday morning, I had 33 missed calls and 5 voicemails from Avery. The first one was fake calm, that voice she used when she wanted to sound like the adult in the room. Camden, can we please talk? I know last night looked bad, but it wasn't like that. Just call me, okay? Then came the slightly annoyed one. Seriously? You're ignoring me now? You think disappearing is the solution? Then desperation. Camden, please, this is getting out of hand. Just come home. Let's talk. But she didn't say sorry. Not once. That told me everything I needed to know. Meanwhile, Susan was feeding me information I hadn't even asked for. Apparently, Avery tried to go to her parents' house after finding the apartment empty, only to be turned away at the door. Her dad told her, word for word, you made your mess. Don't drag it through this house. By noon, I was sitting at a coffee shop downtown, laptop open, flash drive plugged in. I wasn't looking for revenge porn. I wasn't even trying to ruin her life. I was building a timeline. Quiet, precise, undeniable. And when I had it all organized, I sent 3 emails. The first went to our marriage counselor. She'd always told us, I can only help if we're honest in this room. So I gave her the full story, including screenshots of the messages Avery sent while claiming to be in deep emotional recovery. Yeah, emotional recovery in someone else's bed. The second email went to Avery's HR department. Not because I wanted her fired, but because she was claiming therapy leave on company insurance, while spending those days at a hidden apartment with Blake. Fraud? I don't know. But someone needed to look into it. The third email? That one was personal. I sent it to Blake's wife. Yep, his wife. She was real. I'd looked her up. She'd posted a family photo a few weeks ago. Him, her, and their 2 kids at a pumpkin patch. I sent her a polite, heartbreakingly honest message. No rage. No threats. Just the truth. I attached the proof. I told her I was sorry she had to hear it from a stranger. I didn't expect a reply, but I got one. 2 hours later. For words. I've been waiting too. And just like that, everything shifted. Because I realized I wasn't alone in this. And Avery? Avery was about to learn that you can only keep lies contained for so long, before they start tearing through everything you built. 3 days after I sent those emails, everything started to fall apart. But not for me. Blake's wife showed up at Avery's workplace. Not screaming. Not throwing punches. Just holding a folder of printed messages, timelines, and photos. She handed it to HR. No dramatics. No warning. Just a quiet storm blowing through the glass doors of that fancy office Avery was so proud of. An hour later, I got a text from Susan. Avery's been sent home. It's all unraveling. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I just sat by the window of the apartment I was now renting by myself, sipping tea, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Stillness. Not revenge. Not justice. Just stillness. I took time off work, started journaling again, went to the gym, not to punish myself, but to feel my body wake back up. I even found a local support group, not just for betrayed spouses, but for men trying to rebuild self-worth after emotional abuse. Turns out there are more of us than people realize. Avery tried to reach out again. Apologies, long ones. Emotional. Strategic. She even had the nerve to send a playlist of our songs. I didn't block her. I wanted her to watch me not respond. That silence she once used as a weapon? Now it was my boundary. Eventually, she stopped. She moved out of our old place. I let her keep the furniture. I didn't want any of it. Then one afternoon, I ran into Blake's wife. Her name's Rachel, at a bookstore, of all places. We talked. Not about them. About music. About growing up in the Midwest. About how betrayal doesn't make you weak. It just reveals how much strength you were giving to the wrong person. We didn't rush anything. But I'll say this. Sometimes the most unexpected connections come from the deepest wounds. Months later, I looked in the mirror and didn't see the man who froze while his wife danced on her ex. I saw a man who walked away with his dignity intact, who rebuilt from the ruins without turning bitter, who learned to stop begging for love that came with conditions. And for the first time in forever, I didn't just feel okay. I felt free.